we are continuing to review the 2021 Academy Award Best Picture nominees, and today we're looking at Sound of Metal. It stars Riz Ahmed and tells the story of a heavy metal drummer who suddenly begins to experience hearing loss. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm on the couch.
Gone to safety. Gone.
All right, this is Ronald, and I am on the couch after watching Sound of Metal. Sound of Metal, directed by Darius Marder, written by Darius and Abraham Marder, story by Darius Marder and Derek Cianfrance. Starring Riz Ahmed, Paul Raci, Mathieu Amalric, Olivia Cooke, Lauren Ridloff, and Chelsea Lee. Okay, so Sound of Metal, it is available on Amazon Prime. It is a movie, once again, another Best Picture nominee. It is a movie about a young man named Ruben, who is a metal drummer. He's in a metal band, and he's a drummer, and he begins to lose his hearing. And it basically takes you on the journey with him as he initially loses his hearing, and what he does next, and the next set of things that he kind of goes through. This movie is performance driven, and this is the fourth movie I've seen, fourth Best Picture nominee I've seen. I've seen Judas and the Black Messiah, Promising Young Woman, Nomadland, and now Sound of Metal. And I'm getting the sense that this is a very performance driven year. I have a feeling that that's going to happen because I guess my initial reaction is wondering if this has anything to do with the pandemic and the way movies were filmed, the way people did things this year. I can't necessarily put my finger on it. I can't take that thought all the way to termination, but it seems like this year, because of the way people watched movies, because, you know, there was no big blockbuster, there wasn't kind of that big, like, middle of the road film, if you will. And my memory's failing on good examples of that in the Oscar realm would be like, I don't think we're going to get a Parasite this year, which is like an action movie with a lot of good performances in it as well. I think everything this year looks like it's going to be performance driven. And this movie, where it is lacking on plot, there's not much plot after it's a metal drummer losing his hearing. After that, it kind of, and I said this about Nomadland, it kind of is a little aimless at times. So we're watching, and I think it's anchored by the performance of Riz Ahmed, who does an amazing job. He is playing a young man who is having circumstances put upon him that he does not want to happen. So he's going through a grieving process of watching, of the life that he left behind while trying to move forward into this new life and trying to make sense of this new life in a way that doesn't make sense, try to make sense of his new life. And it's everything's distorted, and I think the movie does a good job of playing with that distortion in the sound design. So a lot of times when he's losing his hearing, we're getting the sound design reflects that. When he loses it completely, the sound design reflects that. It reflects what other people hear versus what he hears. And what Riz Ahmed does a good job of is panicking. He does a very good job of showing what it looks like to panic without like becoming unhinged, but in a way with just his face. You're looking at this young person that's like, whoa, what is happening to me and how can we fix it? And when he finds out what the solution is, he's like, yeah, just give me the solution. Let's fix it because I'm a drummer. I got to get back to it. And he does a good job of embodying that feeling. And I think anybody that watches this will feel very familiar about having a problem that may be more complex than we first initially realized, and they're just wanting it to be fixed real fast. Well, we'll just do this and we'll fix it. I mean, it'll be fine. Don't worry. And it's that energy that he delivers well in acting, while the people around him seem to be taking the issues that he's having a little more seriously. So it takes us on that journey. And I think plot wise, this movie is very thin. the story that it's telling is really just telling us a journey of a guy who really doesn't want to be in the situation that he's in. And that's kind of it. He doesn't want to be in the situation and the choices that he makes as a result. I think some people would argue that there's a deeper message, and there possibly is one. I just don't know how well this film did on delivering that message. It also talks about, because Ruben in the movie is also an addict, and it also has some themes of addiction and recovery in it. And at one point, he's spending time with a group of people who are deaf and addicts or experiencing some sort of addiction as well, and he's spending time with them. And I think one thing the movie does not do well, it does not really, and it talks about it, it states it explicitly at one point, but I think it stated it too late for me, the viewer, to really understand it, which was that a large portion of the deaf community does not look at deafness as a disability that needs to be fixed. And the reason why that becomes important is because Ruben makes a choice in the movie that flies in the face of that. And I say that because if they stated that explicitly in the movie earlier, then I think the weight of his decision would have made more sense to me later in the movie, when I'm kind of watching it and being like, I don't understand why everybody's upset with him now. Like, he made a choice. Like, what's the big deal? And I understand this. I've heard this argument within the deaf community before, talking about people who get cochlear implants versus people who don't, and the deaf community with a capital D versus the deaf community with a lowercase d. I've heard these discussions, and I won't get too deep into it, but I will say this movie didn't seem like it was tackling that argument from the beginning. It kind of seemed like that came up later in the film in a way that I don't necessarily think was very effective. I think the way they did it, it almost felt a little shoehorned at that point. And I struggled with that. And I think that's where the plot was the weakest. That being said, Riz Ahmed's performance throughout is consistent. He does a good job. You are interested in him. You're interested in what he's doing. And he does a very good job of portraying frustration. And to his acting ability, this is a situation, again, that is put upon him. He has no control over what's happening to him, as opposed to his performance in The Night Before, the HBO drama, where he is, again, in a different situation where stuff is happening to him that he has no control of, and he's still showing frustration, but he shows it in a completely different way in that movie than he does in this movie, which I think is a true testament to his acting ability, because in one situation, he kind of like, he takes it in a more introspective way, whereas in this one, he's more lashing out at the situation, not necessarily at people as much as at the situation and inanimate objects in front of him. So I really think that the performance was good. I think it warranted I think it 100% warranted his Best Actor nomination. Unfortunately, he's up against a posthumous nomination for Chadwick Boseman. So I don't know if he will win, but if he, as far as I've seen in terms of performances, I think he definitely deserves at least the nod, if not also the win. But I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know if it'll happen this year. I don't think this movie is a Best Picture. Now, people are going to argue with me on that, and I'm proud to have that argument with you. I just think movie-wise, it wasn't that good. And again, the themes of these movies this year is they're all downers. This one was a downer. I mean, I watched Nomadland and now I've watched this in one evening, and I wouldn't recommend that for anyone. As a matter of fact, I would recommend you just read the plot synopsis on some of these, because you're going to, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is somebody else's type of movie, but I'm not a fan of the performance driven film to begin with. I like a film that has a great performances and a great plot and and written well, great direction, all of that. Whereas I don't think this movie necessarily has all of that. So I just have to watch Riz Ahmed's performance, and then also it's a downer. And so watching Nomadland, feeling a little bit down, watching Sound of Metal, also feeling a little bit down, watch Promising Young Woman, left feeling a little bit down, finished Judas and the Black Messiah, angry and a little down. So I mean, this year, it just seems like there's a slate of movies they're putting out that aren't necessarily the most uplifting, but they're all the one thing they all have in common is they have great performances. So I have a couple more to watch. I have Minari and a couple of the others. So I don't know if this is the case for all of them. The Father, I think there's one more. So I don't know if this is the case across the board, but so far it does not bode well. With that being said, Sound of Metal, I would give it 2.5 of 5 stars. I would give Riz Ahmed's acting like 4.5 of 5 stars. But And you know what? And yeah, that's fine. Let's just bring it up to a 3. It's another 3-star movie. It's fine. And I don't want to bring it down to a 2.5. Oh, Ronald, what are you doing? Yeah, just give it a 3. It's a fine movie if you want to watch Riz Ahmed do a very good job acting in it. But if you're going into this expecting more from the film as a movie, it left me wanting a little more when we got to the end. So with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh It's Big Ron Studios. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. To find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studios shows, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron. That's at ohitsBigRon. If you like this show, check out our sister show, Time Well Spent. Leaving the Theater will be back soon, but until then, I'll be here on the couch.